Hey guys, it is Sebastian from AskSebby, and today we are going to talk about American Express changing a lot of their benefits for their Delta cards. Before we dive into it, if it sounds like deja vu, the reason is because American Express is overhauling a lot of their cards. We're going to see a lot of these changes happen on January 30th of 2020, and some of these benefits and perks phase out by the end of the year. For the purpose of this video, we'll talk about the personal card and then the business variation to see the changes and to see whether these are good or bad for you. Starting off with the Delta Blue card, you can now pay off your miles and there's going to be no foreign transaction fees. For a card that has no annual fee, for one that people typically use as a downgrade path, I think this is generally a good move. On the business side, there isn't a Delta Blue card because there just isn't, so nothing to really look at over there. For the Delta Gold card, we're seeing an increase in the annual fee from $95 to $99. We're seeing Delta Sky Club access for $29 going away. With the card, you're going to get a $100 Delta flight credit after $10,000 in spend within a calendar year. You're also going to now earn 2x miles back for restaurants as well as for US supermarkets. The final one is that the MQD waiver for spend will end on December 31st of 2019. I wouldn't really pay $29 to access the lounge anyways. I like Delta lounges, but not $29 worth. The increased multipliers are nice, but I feel like for most people, you weren't really using your cards for those anyways. If you were someone who had big spend in those categories, there are just better cards out there for pretty much everything. You're losing out on the MQD part, but I feel like people going for that were probably using the Delta Platinum card anyways for the boost, given how the boost works and given the $25,000 in spend you needed anyways. Overall, I think this is a bad move on the gold card part, but it's also kind of weird in the sense that it's not really helping anyone, but it's also not hurting anyone. It's in that weird, awkward spots. I guess technically it is hurting some people, but it's just still not that competitive as much as I would like. Put another way, I feel like they pretty much wanted to revamp the card. They ran on a treadmill and they changed some stuff up, but it's still pretty much the same awkward card that it is. For the Delta Gold business card, pretty much the same changes other than the multipliers. So here you're going to earn 2x miles back for every dollar spent on restaurants, US shipping, and US advertising. Probably a bit better than the other card just because if you have a lot of ad spend, this might be a bit more useful. Diving into the Delta Platinum card, the annual fee is increasing from $195 to $250. You're also going to get a global entry credit or TSA pre-check credit, and in order to enter Delta Sky Clubs, it's going to $39 from $29. Miles boost is pretty much staying the same except for the fact that instead of getting MQMs and miles, you're just getting MQMs. So in the past, when you hit $25,000 in spend, you would get 10,000 miles towards status as if you flew those, and then 10,000 Delta miles, and now you're just getting the 10,000 miles as if you flew them. You're also getting a bunch of different multipliers, 3x back on Delta spend, 3x back on hotels purchased directly, 2x on restaurants, and 2x on US supermarkets. Overall, I think the changes here are going to be bad. I don't really think it's a good thing unless you were someone who was using this as your main card. For a lot of people in this community, you're probably still using it for the companion certificate and then looking to downgrade it in year 2 or to kind of time it in a way that you maximize the value. On the business end, you lose some of the multipliers, but you end up getting 1.5x miles back for purchases that are $5,000 or more. This one's a bit better to me just because for a lot of people who are business owners who are going towards that boost figure, then I think it's easier to make sure that your transactions are $5,000 or more. $25,000 in spends with that extra little 0.5 doesn't sound like a lot, but you're getting 12,500 points instead of the normal 10,000 points you would have gotten in the past. So a bit higher, assuming that you can make sure that your purchases, your business transactions can hit that threshold. Probably still a bad thing though, given that they increased the annual fee by $55. For the Delta Reserve card, we are seeing quite a few changes. So annual fee is going from $450 to $550. You're going to get a global entry or TSA pre-check credit, and then you get 2 additional Delta Sky Club one-time guest passes. You get complimentary access to the Centurion Lounge when you are flying Delta, and you also get complimentary upgrades. There's 2 more changes that we'll talk about in a second, but let's unpack that first because I think it's worth talking about. I think this is an interesting card if you can stomach that big annual fee. Complimentary upgrades end up being pretty powerful because there have definitely been routes that Manny and I have gone on where we see first class and it's not full. This means that Delta went down the list, they went down diamonds and technically 360 people, which is invite only. So 360, Delta diamond, platinum, gold, and then silver, and it still found no one else to put into first class. It's not the fancy first class that we think of when we think of international, it's domestic first class, but still, for some people, for people who are tall, this might end up being pretty powerful. The city you're based in and what hub it is probably plays a pretty big role, but it's something that might be worth considering. And we don't really see any other cards that give you upgrades by virtue of you having a credit card. On the Centurion Lounge side, I don't really think it makes sense to go for this card specifically for Centurion Lounges, given that the effective annual fee of this card is so high compared to the Platinum card, unless you never take Uber, unless you can't use any of the other credits that they have. You're pretty much looking at two very expensive cards, but at least one of them gives you a bunch of credits that make it a bit easier to stomach. Miles Boost is kind of the same thing as the Platinum card, where it's going to be a status boost instead, where you're only going to get MQMs and not Delta Miles. One big difference though now is that you can do this 4 times on the card instead of just 2 times. You're also going to earn 3x miles back on Delta Spend instead of just 2x back, which is the current card. What are my thoughts on this card? I think a lot of people expect me to rip into it because it has such a high annual fee, and the effective annual fee given the perks, it's still pretty high, but I think I'm a fan just because it's doing things that no one else is really trying to do. If you're someone who has a lot of high spend, if you're a business owner or something, and you want it to go towards status, but you don't fly enough right now, but you're going to fly a lot next year, this card is pretty interesting. And also the fact that it helps you with upgrades, even when you don't currently have status, is also very interesting. We just don't see this type of thing among any other card. If you're someone specifically just looking at the multipliers and looking to break even and get expected value and stuff, then there's better cards. I'd rather get the Chase Sapphire Reserve and get 3x back over there than 3x Delta points here, given how expensive this is. But for those weird, unique circumstances, this card might fit the bill. Does that mean I think you guys should go out there and get this? Not really. I still think it's very, very niche. I think the only few people I'd recommend this card right off the bat is if you're a business owner or if you are a first-year consultant and you don't have your status yet. But even then, I think a lot of consulting firms have like an internal fast boost process, something you can apply for that makes it faster for you to get status. Or if you're very tall and you need that room, but at that point it might also make sense just to buy the upgrades. Sometimes they aren't as expensive as you might think. On the business side, the only big difference is that you're going to earn 1.5x miles on purchases after spending $150,000. Yeah, that one doesn't really make sense to me. See, I wish they did the $5,000 purchase one similar to the Delta Platinum business card. That makes a bit more sense. This 150,000 figure, I guess they really are focusing towards those businesses that have high spends. Wrapping up the video, how do I see each of these cards and how would I consider them in my book? The blue card to me is a downgrade card for the no annual fee if you want to keep your history alive, or if you're a student and you just need a specific situation card for that no foreign transaction fee. The gold card is one that I would get if you need the other perks of the gold card, which I don't think have changed. So if you need priority boarding, if you need those checked bags for domestic flights, and also if you want that welcome bonus, intro bonus, that makes a ton of sense. Platinum card is going to be for that intro bonus as well, and also for the companion certificate, if that makes sense. And the fact that you have a downgrade path into the blue card on the personal end. Business end, it's a bit tougher, it's more spend based, but might still make sense for you. For the reserve card, it was a special situation card before, and now it's more of a special situation card. If anything, I think it's interesting. Some people are definitely going to get value from it, but I think for a lot of normal people, it's a tough card to use and it's tougher if anything. In year one for a lot of these cards are going to get value given how the cards work, given how the perks work. Year two is when you need to make sure that you're getting positive expected value. Otherwise, you need to downgrade the cards, cancel them, figure out what you want to do. That doesn't really make sense to keep a card that doesn't help you for no reason. Personal cards, you have that downgrade path. Business cards, if you cancel them, it doesn't really hurt you because it doesn't really count towards your average age of accounts given how American Express business cards work. On that note, if you are someone who wants to learn more about American Express cards and you want to support our channel, very easy way to do that would be to use the links that are on our website, AskSebby.com, or the ones down below in the description box. Hopefully that was helpful, and let me know if you guys have any questions. My question for you guys is, what are your thoughts on these changes? What are your thoughts on these new cards? Let me in the community know down below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. It really helps us out. If you know anyone else who'd benefit from what we just talked about, feel free to share the video with them. It'll probably help them out. But otherwise, hope you guys liked it. See you guys next time.